Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our first webinar of the application season, our Smart 101 application kickoff webinar. So today we are joined with Ms. Corinne Beach. She is our Smart Program Manager. We have Romney Flowers. She is one of our university liaisons for the National Capital Region. And also Juan Choi, another university liaison, and he works with the schools in Alabama and Georgia. In addition to our three speakers here, we also have two scholars joining us today to share their SMART journey. So we have Al Dungo, who is a Phase 3 scholar from our 2019 cohort. Al's commitment was just recently completed at the Air Force Lifecycle Management Center in Randolph, Texas, where she continues to work. And then we also have Thomas Deluski, who is a Phase 1 scholar from our 2022 cohort. Thomas is soon going to transition into Phase 2 and begin his service commitment at the U.S. Army Space and Missile Defense Technical Center. So I'm now going to hand it over to Ms. Corinne Beach to get us started with some opening remarks.
Okay. All right. So happy Wednesday, everyone, and thanks for joining us today. I hope your summers have been wonderful and everyone's looking forward to getting back into your academic year. I'm excited that you're interested in the SMART program and would encourage you all to use this opportunity to ask questions during the webinar, as well as to use our SMART website to learn more about the Department of Defense, as well as the SMART program overall. Today, the team will talk through application and all the ins and outs there. So again, please ask questions as you have them, and we'll try to answer as many as we can. And again, thank you for your interest in the SMART program. We are looking for great talent through STEM careers for the Department of Defense. And if that fits you, we'd love to have you. Good luck in your application. And with that, I will turn it over to Juan for our presentation.
Thank you, Corinne. Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Juan Choi. I am one of the university liaisons here at SMART. Before we dive into the SMART program, I'd like to let you all know where our SMART program fits within the Department of Defense, specifically within DoD STEM, which is a section of the Department of Defense. Initially, the DoD STEM leverages scientists and engineers at defense laboratories and partner organizations to provide unique STEM learning experiences. And as you can see on the graphic on the right-hand side, that doesn't start at the collegiate level, but at early as the elementary school level. But all that's to say, the mission is to inspire, cultivate, and develop exceptional STEM talent through this continuum that you see to enrich our current and future DoD workforce poised to tackle evolving defense technological challenges. Okay, next slide, please. And to talk about our SMART program, in a nutshell, our SMART program is a merit-based scholarship and unique education and workforce development opportunity for STEM students at the bachelor's, master's, and doctoral levels. To highlight our benefits, we provide a full tuition. There is no cap on tuition. SMART will fund your bachelor's, master's, or PhD at any regionally accredited university. On top of that, SMART will also provide an annual stipend that ranges from $30,000 per year all the way up to $46,000 per year. That depends on your degree level. So for those that are pursuing their bachelor's degree, that'll be $30,000 per year. For those pursuing their master's, that'll be $40,000 per year. And for those pursuing their PhD, that'll be $46,000 per year for your annual stipend. Also, we know that books are getting more expensive. We know that there are health-related costs. So within our SMART program, there is also a book and health allowance. Our book allowance is $1,000 per year. Our health allowance is $2,500 per year. And also baked into our program, we also have summer internships that ranges from 8 to 12 weeks at our sponsoring facilities. And I'll talk more about what sponsoring facilities are. And at your sponsoring facilities, you'll be connected to an experienced mentor that will answer your questions, that will lead you throughout your internships, as well as your employment at your facility. And then lastly, guaranteed employment with the Department of Defense as a civilian employee, instead of worrying about applying for jobs and uploading your resumes in various places like Indeed or Monster or LinkedIn. Right after graduation, that civilian employment will be waiting for you. Next slide, please. Here's our eligibility and program requirements. Applicants must be a citizen of the United States, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, or United Kingdom. So they must be 18 years of age or older by January 1st of 2027, have a minimum 3.0 GPA on a 4.0 scale. And this also means when you apply for the SMART scholarship as well as the duration of your SMART scholarship program. Applicants planning to attend in fall of 2026 or enrolled in a US accredited college, they must be pursuing a degree in STEM, and I will talk through what that looks like in the next slide. Must be able to obtain and maintain a security clearance with your sponsoring facility. Must have a minimum of 1 year of degree funding and a maximum of 5 years, meaning that when you are awarded with SMART, you must have a minimum of 1 year left of your degree pursuit before graduation and a maximum of 5 years or anywhere in between. Must be able to complete summer internships with your facility. And then lastly, accept a 1-for-1 service commitment at the Department of Defense civilian employee after graduation. So what that means is that for every year that you receive a scholarship from SMART, that same number of years you would have your service commitment as a Department of Defense civilian employee after graduation. You're not an intern, you won't be a volunteer, you'll be a full-time DoD civilian employee. Okay, next slide, please. To talk more about our STEM disciplines, our eligible STEM disciplines, here is our list. We like to say these are umbrella STEM disciplines. We know that these aren't majors per se, and your specific major the wording may not be the same. But we want to highlight that nursing, medical degrees don't fall under a STEM discipline and are not covered by the SMART program, as well as non-technical degrees such as management, arts, or humanities won't be funded by SMART as well. Next slide, please. So to give examples of some STEM disciplines and some majors that may fall under those specific STEM disciplines, here are some examples. So if your major happens to be information technology, informatics, or information security, that would fall under our information sciences STEM discipline. Or if you're in nanotechnology, materials chemistry, or electronic materials engineering, that would fall under material sciences and engineering. Another common major that we get is statistics major, and that would fall under mathematics. But if you aren't quite sure if your degree is eligible, please reach out to us at smart@smartscholarship.org. That email will also be available at the end of this presentation as well. Next slide, please. I've mentioned sponsoring facilities a few times. This is a big part of the SMART program. Sponsoring facilities are the labs or agencies within the Department of Defense that partner with the SMART program. They are the ones that sponsors SMART scholars from education through employment, and this is where scholars will perform their internships and full-time employment after graduation. Also, sponsoring facilities make the selections for awards based on their hiring needs as well. So super important. And as you can see from this map, there are a lot of sponsoring facilities across the US. There are about 150 sponsoring facilities located across that supports the mission of the Air Force, Navy, Army, and other DoD facilities. Next slide, please. Because sponsoring facilities are a big part of SMART, we always recommend applicants, please do your research. A great place to start is at our SMART homepage. If you go to our homepage, there is a tab at the top that says sponsoring facilities. So if you click on that, it'll lead you to this page shown here. And it gives a lot of information about each participating sponsoring facility. Applicants can review various information such as their locations and their sponsoring service, which degree levels and STEM disciplines they support and require, what type of facility they are, like if they are a laboratory, intelligence community, test center, things of that sort. Another information about sponsoring facilities organization, their mission and vision, what they're looking for in a scholar, what life is like at the facility. There's also various data points you can look at, such as what degree level facilities have awarded most often. So if you are going for your master's degree, we consider facilities that typically award a high number of awards to master's students. Also, each sponsoring facility includes priority STEM disciplines. These are top disciplines that facilities are looking for in their scholars. Hopefully, this will help you align your research and to facility needs as well. To receive more information on sponsoring facilities, definitely check out the website because there is a lot of information. We also recommend attending other webinars, such as our upcoming webinar, Sponsoring Facility Focus, which will occur on September 10th. So please be on the lookout for that as well. Last thing I want to note is that because sponsoring facilities are a huge part of SMART and also for SMART scholars on where they are placed. And this is a life-changing decision with the SMART Scholarship Program. We ask applicants, please, please, please do your research. This type of opportunity and the length of our SMART Scholarship, as well as your career choices, because they're so huge and have a lot of weight to it. We do really encourage our applicants to do your research on sponsoring facilities. Next slide, please. Now we'll talk about different SMART Scholarship program phases, what life is like as a DoD employee, and highlighting our scholars. For our SMART Scholarship lifecycle, we have 4 phases in our SMART program. Here at SMART, we start at phase 0. This is our award phase. Typically, our award notification occurs April after our application cycle, and also including in there our orientation, our SMART orientation, which occurs in July. Our awardees will also do their site visits to their sponsoring facilities, where they'll also undergo background checks. And then after that, August 1st, they will enter into phase 1, which is their academic pursuit. This is where scholars focus on their full-time coursework, maintaining that 3.0 GPA. And then after your academic year, you will go do your summer internship at your sponsoring facility. And this is also where you will have your clearance initiated. And then after graduation, you will enter into phase 2, which is the service commitment aspect. After graduation, you will transition into full-time civilian employment. You'll need to apply for your job that are be included as you transition into your facility, maintaining that 1-for-1 service commitment. And then after that, you will transition into phase 3, which is the retained phase. This is when your service commitment is complete, and you still have the option to stay with the Department of Defense, or you can move on and pursue other passions. But we do want to highlight that we have a 91% success rate all the way from phase 0 to phase 3. 91% of our SMART scholars have completed in its entirety. Next slide, please. As you can see, our SMART program is more than a scholarship, as you have heard me talk about the sponsoring facilities. But at the top of that, scholars will have an opportunity to work at world-class facilities, work on cutting-edge technologies in a variety of careers in one of our 150 SMART sponsoring facilities. Also, our SMART scholars will have the opportunity to participate in international internships where scholars can collaborate with the international scientific community on research that has global impacts. And then lastly, we want to recognize our SMART scholars as well. So there are opportunities for our Smart Innovation Awards to empower our smart scholars, and sponsoring facilities to establish innovative research efforts and their partnerships between the DoD and academia. You can read more about that on our SMART website. And now to highlight our SMART scholars who have gone through this experience, I will now pass it off to Al.
So hi everybody. My name is Al Dungo, and as you can see here, I'm a SMART scholar, actually from 2019. And so whenever I found SMART, I actually first heard about it whenever I was in high school. I had somehow come across it, just kind of seeing how there was different scholarships around, the United States, just trying to find my way into, academic education, college, the next step. But then the SMART program that I specifically looked for was the one that, you actually have to be in college already. So whenever I applied for it, I was in community college at the time. As you can see there, it says Thomas Nelson Community College. And I was finishing up with my associates whenever I applied for SMART. At the time, like I said, I was really just trying to shoot for whatever I could to get myself through school. I knew that I wanted to be a STEM major, so whenever I came across this, it was absolutely life-changing for me. During the time that I was applying for SMART, during that application window, which is where a lot of you guys are at right now, I was actually going through some tough things in my life. Like I said, I really just wanted to be able to finish school. I wanted to, get a career, and SMART really changed the game for me. So even through personal challenges, financial stress, and really trying to shoot for school, applying for SMART, it takes work. You got to coordinate with those references. You got to gather the transcripts, write the essays and stay on top of all of those details. But every single time that I wasn't sure, if I was going to make it, there's uncertainty. There's so many applicants. It feels competitive. I just kept telling myself that this could really change everything for me. And so upon that, I was finishing out my associates at community college. I remember that day vividly. 6 years later, like even up until now, that was 2019, the SMART cohort. I was sitting at my part-time job, the middle of my spring semester, and I got that email that said, "Hey, your congratulations, you're a SMART scholar." So that following fall. It was actually really crazy because whenever they called me, they said, "Hey, do you want to be, kind of where to go?" I was going to school in Remember, I went to school at Old Dominion University. That's in Virginia. I actually lived in Texas. That's where I grew up. That's where I was born and raised. I'm actually from Uvalde, Texas. So even bigger, small town, going all the way to Virginia and then be given this scholarship. It just blew my mind. And so whenever I got it, they said, "Hey, the sponsoring facility that actually wants you is in Texas." And so I actually, whenever you do the application, you get to put that reference of, where do I want to go? What sponsoring facility did you want to choose? And I actually choose everywhere but Texas. I chose California, I chose Washington, anywhere but where I came from. And so of course, I was like kind of on the fence about it, but who's, really going to be on the fence about it? And so of course, I went and did my facility visit. I said yes, let's do it. Went right into the university, which was a transition itself from community college, and like I said, it just changed my life. So overall, that you can see here, I got my bachelor's degree in computer science, so that's my degree. But I was actually also a COVID student. So, I think maybe just a year into university, which is technically my junior year of college, the world changes. Everyone's online all of a sudden. They're kind of, not sure what to do about internships with the whole in-person aspect, and it got tough. I can imagine some of you guys and, anyone who's listening, everyone was going through something major during that time of COVID. And so imagine being in college, but Smart was always there to support, and they even heard me out whenever I said, "Hey, my university actually offers an accelerated 1 year master's program." And so they said, "Hey, if you actually just, kind of do this paperwork, you've been a great scholar." And it was hard. Like I said, I'm not saying, not sugarcoating any of it. I had to keep up with my grades. There was times where I struggled so much, and I kept telling myself, I worked so hard for this. I'm not gonna. It was motivating to have Smart behind me to remember that I could do it. How I got it in the first place, and so again, that really changed. And so I just kept on going. I graduated with my bachelor's, and I got my stipend, every month for living costs. So that was a really big game changer. Without having to worry about work, I could focus on my studies, had my books taken care of, had the summer stuff going on, and I got through my master's after that. Again, still super supportive. They're always doing the check-ins with the phases, making sure that you're, hear what you're doing throughout the year, and always answering emails. And then I graduated in 2022 with my master's in computer science. And to there, I would go back home to Texas, like I mentioned, from Virginia back to Texas. And honestly, all along, it was what was meant to be because my family's here. My life happened the way that it was supposed to, and I was able to really have it go full circle, and it changed me. So just to finish that up and tell you guys about how mentioned here, I just finished my phase 3. So since I graduated in 22, that was 3 years of school smart paid for. 2025, which is the year that we're at, my phase 3 just finished this past May. I've served as a computer engineer at JBSA Randolph in Texas. Great facility. Even up to the guy who called me on that first day offering me, I was able to have, my one-to-one and tell him, thank you so much for changing my life, for choosing me and working smart to allow me to be here. I've been able to receive civilian awards twice as an engineer. I've had great mentors, worked on so many impactful projects, and really just learned the wins and the challenges of government work. And it's really great. And so I honestly wish the same opportunity for everyone here. SMART is not just a scholarship; it's a launch pad. It gave me a chance to build my career, contribute to the government. I'm actually now a teacher, and I love helping students of all ages, both from high school to college, and talk about this scholarship and really find my place in the world of technology because I believe that it was meant to help people and really just change everything. So I think that's all I have. Hopefully, you guys were able to follow along with my story. And thank you so much for hearing out. I will pass it along now to Thomas. Thank you, guys.
All right. Thank you, Al. So my name is Thomas. I'm actually originally from Michigan. However, I just graduated from the University of Alabama, also with an accelerated master's degree in aerospace engineering and mechanics. So I am just about to transition to my full-time role. So I just graduated this May. I did 5 years at Alabama. So like Al was saying, I also started during COVID. So instead of being a junior, I was a freshman. So that was definitely something new. My senior year of high school was kind of ended short. So it was great to be able to go down and kind of get out of everything and kind of a fresh start down in the South. So I'll be actually my full-time role will be with the U.S. Army Space and Missile Defense Command in Huntsville, Alabama. So about 2.5 hours north from the university, and I'll be working under the Concepts Analysis Division on the Arsenal. So that's going to be really awesome. I'm super excited. So I originally applied in my sophomore year, but that wasn't my first time applying to this. So I heard about this way back when, I think almost in high school when I was looking at schools. I applied my freshman year. I did not get it my freshman year. I didn't have a whole lot with COVID. It was really hard to get any sort of research or in-person experience in anything. So I just kept hammering back at that application, and I got lucky enough where at my school I randomly on the way home from an exam for one of my engineering courses, just talking with a group of these guys I was walking back to my apartment with, and one of them happened to be a Smart Scholar. So he kind of helped me a lot and kind of explained how awesome this scholarship was. Like there was a lot of things that he knew being a Smart Scholar that I didn't really understand. It's a fantastic program. Like what Al said, it will change your life. It will, even if you have a scholarship. I was on scholarship at Alabama. Even if you have a scholarship, this will make everything so much easier. I actually was it actually I was awarded the scholarship when I was studying abroad. I worked my butt off to get some scholarships to go abroad. And I was lucky enough that after I received my SMART scholarship, I was able to do an international internship in Belgium. So I was part of the first cohort to go over when they restarted the program post-COVID to the Von Karman Institute for Fluid Dynamics right outside of Brussels. I speak fluent French, so it was really awesome being able to use that in a technical. I used it in my engineering classes in France when I was studying there, But it was a really awesome experience to be sent over to work with a NATO what's the word I want, involved research facility. I worked on hypersonic reentry simulations. I had no clue what I was doing, but all the other smart scholars actually, I met so many from around, whether they're from Texas or from California or wherever. They all helped me get learn so much. It is an awesome program. It's not just the money, not just the connections you make within the program. It's also the people who are also smart scholars. I still talk to a lot of the ones that I did that experience with, and I highly recommend anyone, even if you have an inkling of interest in going abroad. It's a great time. I also last summer I did actually intern on the Arsenal, and I was able to go to a conference called the Space and Missile Defense Symposium. Let me tell you, SMART will allow you to get connected to the craziest of people. It is truly an awesome experience. I was able to have one-on-one interactions with executives from the major defense companies. I was able to sit down and have long conversations, whether it's just personal conversations or, for example, I met one of the men who pitched Space Force to the US government and actually stood that up a couple of years ago. And that was just a really awesome experience. And I would not have had this if I wasn't a smart scholar. I really had, like Al said, I had no thought of what I would, if I was going to get this or not. I certainly wanted to, but I've been very blessed to be working with the Space and Missile Defense Command down in Huntsville. Couple of just background, the two photos you see on screen are of my senior design and of my research for my master's. I did do an accelerated 1-year master's through my school. Thankfully, my sponsoring facility was very supportive of that, and they just outlined some classes they wanted me to take to make sure I was helping their mission. But it was an awesome experience. I got to build both fixed wing drones and fully decoupled movement of that omnicopter to simulate satellites. I'll be working less with fixed wing drones and more on the missile defense side, so interceptors and stuff like that. But it's been awesome being able to touch a bunch of different things. And I will say, every time I've had any sort of issue, the SMART program has been right by my side. They will advocate for you. In good and bad, they will make sure I call my scholar coordinator more often than I'd like to admit, and we have a great relationship, and it's a great time. It's a great way of getting connected with people who can really advocate for you. That's something. I was a tour guide at Alabama, and that was something that I noticed a lot of the people who excelled the most and did the best they could. It was because they had someone advocating for you, or for them. So SMART will advocate for you. They offer you so many awesome things on top of the money and the guaranteed job after graduation. And I gotta say, I am super excited to be actually starting full time with my sponsoring facility. I think that's about all I got to talk about. So thank you all for coming, and best of luck on the applications.
Thank you both Thomas and Al for sharing your experiences. We really appreciate that. So now that you are familiar with SMART and got to hear some scholar experiences, let's explore the application timeline and how to strengthen your application. So the application opens every year from August 1st to the first Friday in December, which this year is Friday, December 5th. The application does close Friday, December 5th at 5 p.m. Eastern, so please keep that in mind when submitting your application. Once the application closes, the sponsoring facilities begin reviewing applications. This occurs from January to March, and interviews are also conducted during this time. We carefully review thousands of applications to ensure a thorough and fair selection process, and all applicants are kept up to date on the status of their application, even if they do not receive an award. Offers go out in April, and we are again very committed to those updates. Additionally, between May and July, scholars who accept their award will perform site visits. So this is the opportunity to go to your sponsoring facility, meet your dedicated mentor, ask what questions you may have about the internship, and then that transition into full-time employment upon graduation. Then in July, SMART awardees attend orientation. This event allows scholars from the current year's cohort to network with one another and prepare for their SMART journey. Finally, on August 1st, funding officially begins and awardees start their academic pursuit phase. This is the time where you focus on maintaining that 3.0 GPA, and the internships occur in the summers between the academic school year. So typically between May and July. For example, the current 2025 cohort, their internships will begin in May of 2026. I know the December 5th deadline may seem distant at this point because we're still in August, but it tends to arrive sooner than expected. And so we really encourage applicants to get started on that application, reach out to your necessary resources and really hit the ground running so that you're not waiting till the last minute. Next slide, please. So let's talk about the SMART application. Applicants need to complete the registration page to ensure eligibility and receive access to the application portal. So upon registering, applicants will be sent an email with information on how to log in and start the application. Once your account is created, applicants will be directed to the SMART application portal, and this is where you complete each section of the application. These sections include the About Me section. This is where you provide your personal information like your contact, your address, citizenship and demographic, proposed award details. This is award information such as your academic institution, area of study, degree level, and your facility preferences. A personal statement is also required as a part of the application. This is where we prompt you to talk about your goals, your experiences, your interests, and how all of these align with the DoD mission. The My Experiences area, this is where you provide your academic and professional experience. So your current schooling, your GPA. This is where you upload your transcripts and include your resume as well. References, we do require 2 references. We have moved away from the typical reference letter, and we now use a reference form that we have found is much easier for reference providers to complete. Just some application reminders. You can monitor the status of your application in the application portal to ensure that you are up to date and have all of the required sections completed. All sections do have to have a check mark next to them in order to be considered complete. The only exception there is for the references section. You can submit the application without a check mark by the references section. Applicants must submit their application by Friday, December 5th at 5 p.m., and that's 5 p.m. Eastern, in order for applications to be considered. Responses can be changed before the application is submitted, so you can make edits. However, those edits are narrowed down, so not all of the sections can be edited once an applicant submits the application. Those edits are very limited. The only sections that can be edited at that time are your basic contact information in case that changes, the About Me, and then the reference section if you do need to change your references or if you want to add any. Next slide. The My Experiences component of the application, this is an essential section where you showcase your academic and professional journey. Your academic background, you will upload your unofficial transcripts, and this is where you also submit your GPA. Again, you do have to have a 3.0 GPA on a 4.0 scale. Your academic status indicates where you are in your current educational journey, whether that's high school, an associate's program, or pursuing an undergraduate or graduate degree. With academic institutions, you list your current university, college, or high school. The resume and clearance status, this is where you speak about yourself professionally. There's no preferred format to the resume, but we do advise students to seek a writing center, or if you have any professors or someone else in a professional capacity that could give that a look over for you just to make sure that it's clear and concise and professionally written. This is also where you indicate if you are a current DoD employee and if you hold a clearance. Excuse me. If you don't currently hold a clearance, that's fine. If you become a scholar, your sponsored facility will work with you on the clearance forms and process that security clearance. In the community and volunteer work area, this is where we look for how you're involved in your community. These are experiences that are very valuable outside of the classroom, and you can include this information such as organizations you're a part of, projects, volunteer work, and then the dates of these experiences. You'll also have the opportunity to lift publications, presentations, awards, and honors. These accolades are a testament to your expertise and your dedication to the field of study. Lastly, if you've previously participated in any Department of Defense programs such as Pathways, AEOP, JSHS, NERIP, we do ask that you tell us about that. It's a great way for us to understand how the DoD programs help feed into one another, and also shows us some of your past experience with DoD programs. Next slide. For the application, you'll need to submit your most recent transcripts. This means if you've taken any college courses while in high school or you're dually enrolled, you would submit the college transcript. If you have not taken any college courses, you would submit your high school transcripts. If you are currently enrolled in a community college, you would submit those community college transcripts. And if you have not pursued any type of college immediately following high school, you would submit your high school transcript. If you don't have official transcripts, that's completely fine. We accept unofficial transcripts, and there's an opportunity to upload your official transcripts if you're awarded a scholarship. Your GPA should be cumulative. Again, it must be at least a 3.0 from your most recent transcripts, and we do use a 4.0 scale. So if you've taken college courses while in high school and you are dually enrolled, you would use that college GPA. If you have not taken any college courses or have not pursued a college degree, then you would just put your high school GPA. And if you're currently enrolled in a community college, you would submit your community college GPA. Next slide. The application does ask for a personal statement. This is your opportunity to stand out and tell us more about yourself. So really try to differentiate yourself from other applicants, highlight your strengths, what makes you special, your passions, and how those align to DoD goals and missions. Share your educational and professional aspirations. Explain why you want to be a SMART Scholar and highlight what attracts you to this program. Describe how you envision yourself contributing to the DoD mission, and illustrate your commitment to advancing objectives within the national security framework. Most importantly, we really encourage you to seek feedback. So again, utilize university writing centers, advisors, mentors, professors, and ask them to review and refine your personal statement. It's really helpful to have multiple perspectives to really make sure that your narrative is polished. So if you can, have as many people as possible put eyes on that, and just ensure that it's professionally written, concise, and flows well. There is a keyword selection feature in the My Experiences section. Here you can select up to 10 keywords that align with your degree pursuit or interest. The list of keywords is not exhaustive, so the ones that you choose may not directly pair up with all sponsoring facilities, but it does help us match applicants with sponsoring facilities. And this feature is listed in the My Experiences section. Next slide. Sponsoring facility preferences. So selecting a sponsoring facility is very important, and we really encourage applicants to do their research. You are required to submit at least 3 of your top sponsoring facility preferences, and you can list up to 5. To assist you in this, we do have an optional tool within the application that helps you narrow down your choices. You can use this tool, but we do still ask applicants to do your research outside of this. The tool is a way to help, but should not supplement you doing additional research into each of the facilities. We want this to be a good fit for you as well as the sponsoring facilities, because you're committing to not only doing an internship there, but transitioning full-time upon graduation. Our sponsoring facility recommendation tool, it is an optional resource to help you, again, select facilities. The tool is within the application and it generates responses based on the STEM discipline and degree level you've selected in your application. The recommendation tool provides a list of all facilities that match your prompts. So for example, if you enter that you have a Bachelor's of Science in Software Engineering and a particular geographic preference, the responses that you will get will be in order of most similar to least similar. Green will show you the most similar, yellow will be those are somewhat similar, and red will be the least similar. If a sponsoring facility is not listed, it means it doesn't match the criteria that you've listed within the particular tool. Each facility on our page also has an overview. So if you click on that, you can learn more about a sponsoring facility on their website. And we really encourage applicants to do your research, learn more about the facilities. If you do have additional questions, you can reach out to our component liaisons at smartcl@smartscholarship.org. That email address will also be listed at the end of our presentation, so you don't have to worry about copying that down right now. And you just email them the name of the facility that you're interested in, and then our component liaisons will reach out to that facility. And if they have the capacity, they will get back to you to answer any additional questions you may have. Again, it's really imperative to do your homework on the sponsoring facilities because this is an integral part of your SMART journey. Next slide. So choosing your references. As I mentioned, the application does require 2 references, and SMART has moved away from the standard reference letter, and we now use a standardized reference form. The form aims to be more equitable in its process, and it also helps save time for the reference providers. So like I said, you do need 2 references. They should be able to speak to both your technical and personal skills, and we do suggest that you contact your references early. The application is now open, so if you know you're interested in applying, please reach out to your references now. Let them know you plan to list them because they also must submit their reference form by the application due date of December 5th by 5 p.m. You provide us with your reference name, email, and their relationship to you as an applicant, and then save the information in the portal. We then send them a link that they use to access and complete that form. And you can check online under your portal to see if your references have completed that application, but you may submit your application before your references have submitted and completed their reference forms. And again, they submit it through the portal and they do have to do it by that application deadline. Next slide. So references first provide some basic information about themselves, how they know you as an applicant. They then evaluate the applicant on a scale of 1 to 5 on academics, professionalism, teamwork, communication skills, interpersonal skills, and internal motivation. If a reference cannot speak to one of these sections for a particular applicant, it is okay for them to put NA, and it does not negatively affect the applicant. Reference evaluations really help us align an applicant's, motivation, professionalism, personality with sponsoring facilities and what they're looking for. So it's just a way for us to assess your strengths to best match you to a sponsoring facility. Next slide. So now on to tips for a competitive application, which I know that's one of the biggest questions that we get. So first of all, we recommend that all applicants review our application tip videos. These are located in the application before each section, but you can also access them on our website under the Outreach tab. You can see all of them at one time. These videos are a helpful resource for each of the sections, and we really strongly encourage students to watch them before starting a section. It lets you know what to expect and how to best complete that section. There is also a personal statement, as I mentioned. I know sometimes applicants may find it really challenging to talk about themselves, but this is a great time to just tell us your story. Include information that you would want us to know outside of the general information that you fill out in the application under the About Me section and what have you. Try to answer questions like, what are your educational and professional goals? Really explain your interest in your particular STEM field. Why do do you want to pursue the SMART program? Why do you want to work for the DoD? How does your educational and professional career path meet the needs and the mission of the DoD? So again, really use this as an opportunity to align your goals, both professional and personal, with the mission and goals of the DoD. So then we have the reference section that I just talked about. This should be someone who can speak to both your personal and professional experiences. This can be a mentor, an advisor, a teacher, a professor, a previous employer, a coach from a sports team, clergy or other volunteer organizations, anyone that really understands you as an applicant, your career, and your educational goals. And then finally, the sponsoring facilities preference section. Again, this is very, very important. Please do your research, utilize the tools that we have. The sponsoring facility objective is really paramount to the success of you as an applicant, as you become a SMART scholar, and then as you transition into that full-time employment. Next slide, please. So when completing your application, don't be afraid to use the resources that you already have. As I mentioned, writing centers are really great. These are usually available on college campuses, career services centers, libraries, if there are peers within a club or group that you can have to review. Again, as many eyes as you can on your application, on your personal essay in particular, is usually better. Educators, this could be high school educators, college educators, and then just your network in your community. So your mentors, bosses, if you have a job, any nonprofit work you may do, professional organizations. These are all great assets to utilize to review that application. So again, that everything is concise, clear, and professionally written. Next slide. So this is our most recent award data for our SMART 2025 cohort. The 2025 cohort was the largest in our program's history. We got over 8,000 applications and just over 600 were awarded. Awardees represent over 200 different colleges and universities and will support 125 different sponsoring facilities. 41% of our 2025 scholars are pursuing their bachelor's degree, while roughly 20% are pursuing a master's and PhD. Another 16% are obtaining a dual BS and MS, so both their bachelor's and master's at the same time under the program. And this is a change from our 2024 cohort, where scholars were almost evenly distributed across undergraduate, graduate, and master's programs. The top disciplines in 2025 included mechanical engineering, computer science, and aerospace and aeronautical engineering. While these were the top disciplines our sponsor facility selected for 2025, this does change from year to year. So don't be discouraged if you don't fall within one of those majors. It will not affect, you potentially being selected for the next round. Hiring needs change from year to year, and so do the top STEM disciplines. So you will see fluctuation in that. Next slide. So if you need help, please contact us. If you have any more questions outside of this presentation, please email us at smart@smartscholarship.org, and we can answer any questions you may have. Anything related to the application, a question about a major, if you're aligned with something, any of those questions, and anything that we may not answer during this Q&A section, please reach out to us at smart@smartscholarship.org. For anything related to sponsoring facilities, if you would like to be connected, again, this is at the time availability of the sponsoring facility, but you can reach out to our component liaisons at smartcl@smartscholarship.org. And then anything technical with your application. If you have any technical issues, anything that needs to be addressed, you can submit a help desk ticket on our website, and someone will contact you and walk you through your technical issues. So now I will turn it over to Brittany, who will give us one more poll, and then we will go ahead and move into Q&A.
Awesome. Thank you, Romney, and thank you to all of our speakers today, our speakers and our scholars that joined us. So like Romney said, we're going to get ready to transition into some Q&A, but before we do that, we just want to run another poll really quickly with you all. And that poll is, After the presentation that we've given so far, do you feel like you have a better understanding of the SMART program based on the information that we shared today? We want to make sure that we're sharing all the best information for you and that our webinars are really helping you in your application process. So those answers are coming in, and it's looking like people definitely feel like we've done a good job kind of giving an overview of the SMART program. But again, we're going to go ahead and transition into some Q&A right now. And hopefully for those who maybe still have some questions, we can get those questions answered. Please feel free to continue putting questions in the Q&A box. We have gotten tons so far. We will get to as many as we possibly can right now before we end at 2:30 today. And any questions that aren't answered, again, those emails that Romney mentioned, we'll put those up again at the end. Also, feel free to reach out if we don't get to your questions. So we will start off with our first question today, which is, we'll start with a question specifically for our scholars. And if you each want to kind of answer this, that would be great. So is there anything about either your current role, Al, this is more for you, or Thomas, for any of your internships experiences that would have surprised your past self at the beginning of your SMART journey?
Yeah, you can go ahead, Thomas.
Okay. Honestly, it was going, there are a couple of things, but the biggest one was actually being able to have an international experience. Like I wanted to study abroad. I lived in France for 6 months, taking classes. I wanted to get back over. And I was like, well, it's with the government. I'm never, I'm going to Huntsville, Alabama. There's no way they're going to send me over to anywhere but continental US for the kind of work I'm doing. However, it was really surprising when literally within about 8 months of me receiving my scholarship, they're like, would you like to apply for this international experience? It's the first time, it would pay for everything. We'll send you over there doing some cool work. So that was super surprising. I just really didn't expect that. And it was a really awesome program to take advantage of. I also, particularly for my sponsoring facility, is I'm very hands-on, not just in one little thing. Like a lot of, I'm a very much like a napkin math, like to touch every part of a process. And my sponsoring facility is letting me learn electrical engineering, learning all kinds of RF and directed energy stuff, and that's something I've never touched before. And it's really cool that I can kind of uh, move around a lot within my sponsoring facility and kind of touch a bunch of different areas that I probably would never have touched if I worked for a major defense prime or a space company or something like that.
Al, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, just really quick, and that's awesome, Thomas, and definitely relate on that as well, just because you'll really be surprised as to everything that you can put your mind to. Whenever I had first started, like I said, it can be intimidating whenever you apply to look at all the applicants, look at all the majors, look at all the schools and facilities, but really, change that mindset and push yourself to see everything that you want. In life, anything is going to become unexpected. There's going to be challenges, there's going to be ups and downs, but whenever you go towards the end, it's going to be really worth it. Where I'm at now, and kind of looking back at myself, as the question asked, what surprises me, I've gained a lot of confidence. The amount of technical skills and networking and being able to help people is something I've recently discovered of myself. And now, I've done even more in the tech field and made more of an impact than I would have ever imagined whenever I was a kind of shy, college student, unsure of where to go. So, with the right mentors, with the right path, which, you'll really get involved by being in this smart community and just you're already taking a first step by being here. You're really going to be able to, go past that, just like I surprised myself.
Awesome. Thank you both. All right. Another question that we've received is, so if one is accepted to the SMART program, do they need to reapply every year, or is the funding for essentially the duration of their degree?
I'll answer that, Brittany. So once you apply, the funding is for the duration of your degree up to 5 years. So you do not have to reapply year after year. You are a SMART scholar at that point.
Right. All right, our next question. What if you are looking to transfer schools? Does SMART continue your funding?
I could take that one. Yeah, you can definitely continue with SMART if you transfer schools. However, make sure to discuss with your sponsoring facility about the decision as well as your scholar coordinator about that. It's just important to make sure that your new institution, your academic program still meets the eligibility requirements of the SMART program.
We have another question that says, what happens if I plan on enrolling in ROTC and moving towards the military after graduation? How does that impact SMART?
So if students do have a military obligation following a school, then they cannot also be a SMART scholar. Unfortunately, you can't have two DoD programs like that. So because you have the military obligation, then unfortunately you would not be able to get the SMART scholarship.
All right. I'm going to kind of combine two questions here for this next one. So we had a couple people ask if a high school senior can apply to be a SMART scholar, as well as kind of clarifying the age requirements. So Wanda Romney, do you want to talk kind of how that works? So if you're a high school senior, can you apply? And so how does that age requirement work?
Yeah, definitely. If you are going to be a high school senior this upcoming academic year, yes, you are eligible to apply for the SMART program, because if you are accepted, you'll be a SMART scholar at the beginning of your freshman year in college. But you will still need to be 18 years of age by January 1st of 2027.
Awesome. So you need to essentially be 18 by the January after you've been awarded, that first January after you are awarded the scholarship. Perfect. Okay, Thomas, we had a question come in specifically for you. I know you mentioned that you had applied the first time and didn't get in, applied the second time and you were accepted. So people were just asking if there's any advice you have for those who are maybe reapplying for a second time, or what you feel like maybe most changed in your application between that first and second attempt.
I will say, I applied first during COVID, during my first semester at my first year at college, which was it was this weird hybrid, didn't really have a lot of, I guess, hands-on experience. And what ended up actually getting me into the Space and Missile Defense Command was my role, the September through December when I was applying. So honestly, reapplying my first time, I didn't really realize how great the program was, so I didn't put forth as much effort as I probably should have. And I also just didn't have a whole lot on my application. I mean, see if you're at school and you're applying, see if there's any other smart scholars at your school. I've met several at Alabama. They're great resources. I've helped a couple of my friends, and even my buddy back home in Michigan, he recently received a smart scholarship for his work within the intelligence community. The biggest thing is, like people were saying, like, you really got to find the niche that the DoD is and really hammer on how, like, really, instead of having the overall DoD, or if there's specific sponsoring facilities, their mission applying to you or molding to you, mold yourself to their mission. That will make you so much more visible. Instead of just saying, hey, this is what I can do, this is what I can do for the DoD, which sounds like pretty obvious, but you'd be surprised.
Awesome, thank you. All right, so how is the summer internship location determined?
So the summer internship location is the location of your sponsoring facility. So when you receive a SMART award, you are matched to a sponsoring facility. This is where you do your summer internship, as well as where you transition to full-time employment upon graduation. If an applicant or a SMART scholar at that point is more than 50 miles away from their sponsoring facility, we do provide additional funding for travel when you visit your sponsoring facility for that initial site visit. And then in the summertime as well for the internship, there's additional stipend if you're more than 50 miles away from your sponsoring facility.
We have a couple of questions around transcripts. And so Romney, I know you talked through it a bit, but maybe we can just clarify a few things. So someone had asked if we did dual enrollment while we've been in high school so doing the dual enrollment through a college, obviously, they just want to clarify in that case, they would submit their transcript of those dual enrollment courses and not their high school transcript.
Correct. You would do the dual enrollment college transcript GPA.
And then what should be submitted? So someone had asked if I'm a first year college student right now and I currently don't have a college GPA, how do I kind of base my GPA submission off that?
So for that, you would go with your high school transcript. And then if you are selected as a Smart Scholar, you would update us with your official transcripts, which should include the first semester of your freshman year of college.
Okay, so a question around funding. So if you're selected to become a Smart Scholar, is the tuition funding sent directly to the university or to the student to pay that tuition?
Yep, for the scholarship piece, that would Smart will work directly with the bursar's office for that. Additionally, the annual stipend piece that would go directly to the scholars.
And that annual stipend is paid out. Someone was also asking, does that just get paid out at once at the beginning of the year? Or is that paid out over the duration of the year?
Yep, monthly up until graduation.
We also had a question around internships again. So we're just kind of trying to get some clarification on how many summer internships are required to be completed. So we could just talk through a little bit, right? Like how that changes based on the awards that are given.
Right. So if a student only has 1 year of funding through the program, then you will not do a summer internship. You would immediately transition into full-time employment upon receipt of your degree. If you have more than 1 year of funding, the summer following every year of every academic year is when you would do those internships, and those don't start until the summer after your first year of funding. So for someone applying in 2026, you would get your award and you would start in the fall of 2026, but that summer internship wouldn't start until the summer of 2027. So it's the internship is the summer following each academic year until you graduate and transition into full-time employment. If you only have 1 year of funding, you go straight from your degree into that full-time employment with the DoD under that service commitment.
I will do another question we have for the scholars. So either how do you anticipate making a difference, or Al, since you've kind of been working a little bit longer, how do you feel like you have made a difference so far with your technical work within the DoD?
Yeah, so technical work, and thank you for that question. It's really a good one, and hopefully this gives everyone here kind of that big picture. Technology is changing. And so I would even say that the time that I applied for the scholarship up until now, it has changed tremendously. And so that's one way that I want to keep my hand in here. That's why I'm super happy to be able to talk to all of you, because that allows me to kind of show you guys that, not even just national defense, but cybersecurity, logistics, all the tech, all the majors that we're talking about here have, ways and abilities to solve, problems. So I definitely think that I've learned a lot of that now. And one thing that I want to do and give back, as well as with the DoD, is just seeing how they need you guys. They need it. They need us. It's that workforce. It's that next generation. It's that innovation and, future thinking that you guys are going to bring. And so I've been able to do that during my cohort, but then, you guys can definitely look forward to that in the ways that, I'm able to tell you. Technology is impacting everywhere, and that's how I like to approach it with my work specifically. Again, making sure, computer systems are working as they should from an engineer standpoint. They tell us every day at our sponsoring facility that, this is affecting the airmen, helping their processes. And so, whether you realize how big or small the work that that you do. Again, now in college and then one day in your career force, know that I've been able to see my difference made, and that you can definitely do the same as well. And even beyond, no matter where I come from after, finishing my phase 3, which I just did, anything that I'm able to take with me from here on out to the future, again, using those skills from my time at the DoD is going to be impacting, just everywhere.
So we had a question about the security clearance process too. And so there was a question of how do we know if we're able to obtain that? It was mentioned, of course, that one of the requirements is that you have to have a security clearance. So how do applicants know if they're able to obtain that? How does that process work?
So the sponsoring facilities do run a background check. And so during that background check time, that's when they'll look into your history, they'll look at the criminal records, they'll look into financial records. And then, through that background check process, you'll find out if you're able to secure the security clearance. And all of that is done through the sponsoring facility, and not the SMART program directly. So you will be working with your sponsoring facility to process that background check and the security clearance process.
Yep. So there's no steps that you need to take yourself to get that going. Your sponsoring facility will reach out and initiate that with you if you've been accepted. So another question about sponsoring facilities is, does the sponsoring facility need to be either close to where I'm attending school or where I currently live? Is that required?
Nope, not necessarily. If you look at our sponsoring facilities page, you'll see that there are about 150 sponsoring facilities all across the US that you could select from in your application. You don't need to select ones that are close to you in proximity. I believe, as Romney was saying before, if you do live over 50 miles away from your sponsoring facility that selects you, there will be an extra stipend for those traveling costs, relocation costs, but you do not need to select the sponsoring facility that is close to your home or where you live.
Another question about, so if a student's GPA, if they've been awarded the scholarship and their GPA does drop below a 3.0, what kind of happens there? Does the funding immediately stop and is repayment required?
So we do allow an academic probationary period for students to get the opportunity to bring that GPA back up to a 3.0. So you don't immediately use funding. We do allow you that time to try to increase that GPA and again, bring it back to 3.0. If you cannot bring that GPA back up and you are no longer a part of the program, then there is a requirement for repayment for the funding that you received prior to that.
There have been quite a few questions around if we kind of do the accelerated master. So if you're getting a BS, MS, and things like that. And so yes, BS, MS is an option. But one of the questions was, so if you're currently pursuing a BS when you apply and you're thinking that maybe you're going to do a master's after, how would you indicate that on the scholarship? Would you have to reapply for your master's once you finish your bachelor's, or how does that work?
If you're thinking of doing a joint bachelor's, master's degree, definitely put that on your application. If you are a bachelor student and you have been awarded with SMART, and if you're looking into master's program, please talk with your sponsoring facility, your scholar coordinator about that as well. It still needs to align with our program requirements of finishing your degree pursued maximum of 5 years, so that can't be changed. But it is definitely something that you will need to talk with your sponsoring facility as well as your scholar coordinator about that.
There was a question also, and I'll take this one. You had learned about, some of the people here have learned about this webinar from their school, actually, which is great, and looking about how to receive information for future webinars. So everyone who's registered for this webinar today will receive the invitation for our next one. Again, we'll put those up at the end. Our next one is September 10th. So we will make sure that you have access to that registration link as well. So you can definitely join us for those. All right. So if I were to do a dual major and one of those majors was an approved STEM major, but the other one isn't, would I still qualify for the SMART program?
So in that case, we would provide funding for the STEM technical degree. So any tuition costs associated with the STEM technical degree would be covered by SMART, but we wouldn't cover the non-technical degree in that instance.
Are doctoral candidates eligible for the SMART program?
Yes, definitely. Doctoral students are eligible as well, as long as they are able to finish their schooling, minimum of 1 year, up to a maximum of 5 years as well.
And so just to expand a little bit on that part, one to the minimum of 1 year, we did have questions asking if I graduate in May of 2026, would I still be eligible? Again, do you just want to talk through kind of what that timeline looks like, what time you have to have left, and how that works into when you're awarded the program?
Unfortunately, if you are to graduate in May of 2026, you would not be eligible because after this application cycle, if you are awarded with the SMART scholarship, your scholarship wouldn't kick in until August 1st. So if you are graduating in May of 2026, you would already be graduated. So unfortunately, if you are a senior this upcoming academic year, you would not be eligible unless you are planning to get your master's.
And I know we touched on this really early in the presentation, so maybe we can just reiterate this again, a question on if international students are eligible to apply for this.
So because of the security clearance requirement, applicants must be citizens of the US, UK, Australia, New Zealand, or Canada.
And then there was a question, if we could just again, just kind of go over what the service commitment is and how that timing essentially works.
Yep, so it's considered a 1-for-1 commitment, meaning for every year that you receive the scholarship, tuition funding from SMART, the same number of years after graduation, you would have your service commitment piece with the Department of Defense as a civilian employee. So for example, if you are a SMART scholar for your junior year, your senior year, and then you graduate with your bachelor's, SMART has funded for 2 years worth of your bachelor's degree. And then after graduation, your service commitment piece with the Department of Defense with their sponsoring facility would be for 2 years as well.
Okay, so someone asked, aside from peace of mind, is there any advantage to having your application completed before the December 5th deadline?
Peace of mind, and then also, making sure that there's no technical issues. I mean, it doesn't change your odds, and we don't start reviewing the application until after the deadline. So it doesn't change anything. But it is really helpful, again, not only for peace of mind, but to make sure everything is thorough and complete, to make sure everything is concise so that you're not rushed getting through things, so that you have time to ensure that your references are submitted. And again, occasionally we may see some last minute technical issues. And so you don't want to be down to the wire, close to that 5 p.m., something happens, and then you can't submit your application on time. So, I mean, there's no award advantage. Your application doesn't get viewed faster. But I think the peace of mind aspect is important. And then again, when you hear, from Thomas, how much goes into the application, then allowing yourself the time to make sure that it's clear, concise, professional, well written, your best foot forward tells us about you. Really giving yourself that time instead of rushing at the very end is really helpful.
Another question kind of about the stipend and maybe some clarification here. And someone had asked if, because tuition's covered and if I'm living on campus, does that mean that my housing is also covered? So Juan or Romney, do you want to kind of talk to what the stipend really is intended for and how tuition is separate?
Yep, so school-related tuition that will be covered by SMART scholarship. and then all the other living costs, food, things of that sort, that will be under the annual stipend. But housing isn't added with the tuition, if that makes sense. That your annual stipend should be able to provide for your housing, food costs, things of that sort.
Perfect. Yep. So again, things like housing and stuff. So you would pay, but you would receive a stipend. So you would make those payments as opposed to the tuition that we send directly to the school. Okay. So again, for summer internships, just to clarify, there's a question of, do we have to acquire those internships ourselves, or are those assigned to us?
So as a part of being a SMART Scholar, you are assigned to a sponsoring facility, and the sponsoring facility is where you would do those summer internships if you get more than 1 year funding. And again, this is where you also provide your full-time service commitment upon graduation. So you don't have to seek the internship on our end. When you're selected as a SMART Scholar, we assign you to a sponsoring facility, and that's where you do that summer internship. That's where you take your site visit once you receive the award and accept it, and then that's where you transition into full-time employment upon graduation to complete your service commitment.
And a little bit more on facilities again. A question came in about, do we just apply to the one facility we want to work at, or are we able to apply to multiple facilities? So what is that sponsoring facility kind of selection process from the applicant's perspective? What does that look like?
Yep, you could select up to multiple facilities to select you to consider you. So the key things to consider is that, one, are they considering your STEM discipline? Just making sure, as we've all stated before, that you do your research consistently, just so that your STEM pursuits align with the needs of those sponsoring facilities.
All right.
Hey, Brittany, can I add to that?
Yeah, of course.
So I think the research on the sponsoring facilities is one of the most critical pieces to your application, in that you can search on the website for geographic preference, STEM discipline preference, as well as a degree level. And so, like Juan said, if your degree or level of degree doesn't match that sponsoring facility, even if you put them as your number one choice, if that doesn't align to their mission and their needs, they're probably not going to select you. We recommend that you look at facilities that have the degrees that you're pursuing. And then I also really recommend that you look at places where you'd like to live. If you don't want to live in a certain part of the country, personally, I wouldn't look there. This could be a long commitment for some. And if it's not a place that you're interested in living, it makes it feel a lot longer. So do your research, and then just because you list somebody as your sponsor, as a preferred sponsoring facility, doesn't mean that others won't look at your application. I believe Al said that he didn't put his current sponsoring facility in as a preference, but our facilities are looking to um, to select scholars who further their future workforce needs. And so that might not be within the folks who put them as a first or second choice. So they may look outside of that area. Again, though, I would say this is one of the most critical things that you can do, is doing that research and then aligning yourself to those facilities that you've chosen. Looks like Al has his hand up as well.
Yes, sorry. Just that's actually really great, Ms. Corinne, because I love that you say that, because remember, everybody, that it's not just about, it's a great deal. It's a, it's school we're talking about. It's a workforce that we're talking about. There's so much pros to it, but another thing that you have to remember is where it starts within yourself. And if you are going towards a place where you aren't going to be happy, where it's not somewhere that's preferred, you have to think about your quality of life as well, because that's really important during school. And that's one thing I really emphasize, as I mentioned at the start of my SMART journey. I wasn't in the best place at the time. And I sure thought that, you know, going somewhere away from home was going to be ideal. But I'll let you guys in on a little fun full circle moment for me is that recently, right before I finished phase 3, my sponsoring facility, who the guy who picked me, told me that when he saw my application, so to emphasize him, like Miss Corinne is saying, they are looking because when he saw me, even though I did not put it as any of my preference, he said, I saw you and I had a feeling I was wondering if you would want to come back home to Texas. And at the time of my application, I really would say that I was like, "Ugh, I don't really want to go back to Texas, but I care more about school. And at the time, that was what's most important to me. And now I'm thriving back at home more than ever. So just a fun little detail for you guys to see that the things that you put into your application are really being looked at by the facility. And so make sure that the, you know, effort and energy and work that you put in as to what you want to come out is really what you're, you know, planning for and preparing for. So thank you, Miss Corinne.
All right. This next question is an interesting one. I don't know if we've seen it before. And Juana Romney, I'm not sure if you know the exact answer, or maybe Corinne, you do, but someone was asking that for the personal statement, so for that essay, is the assistance of AI permitted, or is that a disqualification?
Okay,
I
I'll
don't know.
take it.
I-
So, I would say use your tools, but be authentic, right? And so AI can spin something lots of ways, right? And if you use AI and you're not authentic in your response, my guess is that the sponsoring facility will see right through that. So I would encourage you to use AI if you use it to maybe better your wording, things like that, but not to write the whole thing for you. Um, Along with that, I would also encourage that you have others review your application, including that personal statement, like Romney and Juan were saying earlier, just to make sure that um, it's written well, makes sense, etc. I've used AI lots of times, and if you don't read it, sometimes there's some mistakes in there and they don't make sense. So while it's a great tool, I would really encourage you to still make sure that it's your words and your authentic self.
Thank you, Corinne. And we're going to do one last question. And again, a reminder, if there's any questions that we didn't get to that you still really need an answer to, I'll put the slide up after we address this question. Please definitely email us with those. But the last question is, can you stay with the DoD longer, and more specifically with the current position, if you're selected as a scholar, after your service commitment is complete?
And the answer to that one is yes. And we have many smart scholars that stay beyond their service commitment. You can stay at your particular DoD facility, you can move around within the DoD, or you are free to pursue other professional, you know, pursuits. But yes, you can absolutely stay within the DoD, and we love to hear stories. When I was at a conference recently, there was someone who's been there for like 14 years beyond their smart scholarship. So we love to hear that. You're free to move on, but we love to hear scholars that choose to stay.
Awesome. Okay, well, I want to thank everyone again today, all of our speakers, our scholars that joined us to kind of give their insight into the program. Before we end, I'm going to throw up one more poll again with 2 questions for everyone. So again, was the content we provided today helpful for you? And then do you also now, for those who are going to be going through the process, do you feel better prepared to complete your SMART application? And so while everyone is answering those questions, I again want to call attention to our upcoming webinar. So we'll have 2 more during the application season. The next one will be on September 10th. And on that one, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into sponsoring facilities. So definitely check out our website. The registration link for that will be posted in the next week or so. And then in October, we will have a retention specific webinar to kind of go over some of the intricacies of that. So that retention webinar is for those students who are already work for the DoD and are looking to go back to school to pursue their degree. So I'm going to throw up this connect with us slide again. Any additional questions you have, please send those to us at smart@smartscholarship.org. If it is more specific to sponsoring facilities, again, that is smartcl@smartscholarship.org. And our application is currently open and will be open through December 5th at 5 p.m. Eastern. So please connect with us on social media, send us your questions. But thank you, everyone. And again, thank you to our speakers for taking the time to join us today. We hope everyone has a great afternoon. Thank you.